While thankfully nobody was hurt in this case, the details are distressing to say the least. Viewer discretion is advised.
Police! Stay where you are! Do not touch anything! Who else is home? What's going on? What the hell is going on?
Listen to what our colleague's got to say. Right, you're under arrest on suspicion of conspiracy to kidnap. You do not have to say anything.
What is going on? What are you talking about?
Mention no questions after it's led to line for anything you do so may be
Can you tell me what you're talking about? You're getting new, babe. That's fine.
Gavin received an entire life sentence due to the threat he posed to the public. This was not Gavin's first offence, nor his second, but it's the most famous.
Hands or ankle shackles, ring and ball gag, 3 lots of rope, metal cable ties, 2 sets of handcuffs, 1 set of handcuffs.
Yeah, you are very sensitive.
Necessities for the arrest to allow for a comprehensive investigation by interview and to prevent any further physical harm to the person. We'll talk about it back.
To who? Can you please explain to me what the hell is going on?
So, at the moment, you're under arrest for conspiracy to kidnap.
Who?
Holly Willoughby.
I don't think those ones are warm.
That's the allegation.
Okay, where's that come from?
Like I said, it'll be explained to you in custody, and you'll be interviewed about it. I'm not going to tell you any further than that at this current time, okay?
Okay then.
But that is the allegation.
The 37-year-old from Harlow, Essex was caught after he unknowingly disclosed his plans to an undercover police officer operating in the online chat room Abduct Lovers.
I'm not going to lie, she's a fantasy of mine. I mean, she's a fantasy of a lot, right? Right, okay.
Anywhere in Florida. Been destroyed.
Mate, if you'd have knocked her while I was open and spoke to you.
As you said, the reason
I was literally just about to go to bed.
The reason that they're going into that is because of the offence that you've been arrested for, we need to make sure that we can gather as much evidence as we can as quickly as we can. You have to put the door in to secure the evidence. Alright?
If you're British, Holly Willoughby is extremely famous. She's also very desired amongst men, not just for her good looks, but for her grace, personality, charm and charisma. She is a TV darling. Holly is married to TV producer Dan Baldwin and has 3 children. She lives in London. The Gavin Plumb murder plot came at an unfortunate time for Holly, as it coincided with a scandal that involved her co-host Philip Schofield. That scandal was beyond the scope of this video, but Philip did later resign from This Morning on the back of it. The talk of showbiz questioned whether or not Holly actually knew about the scandal, and there were many accusations that she sold Philip out. This was obviously a very stressful time for Holly, and then the murder plot emerged. The best way to describe Gavin Plumb is as a repulsive loner. Unfortunately, we can't all be born handsome, we can't all be born with charm, we can't all be born with charisma, but we are all born with the opportunity to do the right thing and to know that our actions have consequences. Gavin knew better. And yet one man did do the right thing. Strangely, an FBI agent in America was the one that discovered Gavin Plumb. The FBI agent found Gavin on a role-playing chat room, and Gavin tried to recruit him into his abduction, kidnapping and murder plot. And before his arrest, he worked as a security guard. He was in a relationship with Laura Roberts, whom he had 2 children with, and who also accused him of. Mark Mulligan was the first person that Gavin Plumb tried to recruit, and unlike the FBI agent, Mark seemingly had every intention of helping Gavin. Both seemingly had a fetish for sexual assaults, which I would deem sexual sadism disorder, sexual arousal at the pain of others. During the exchanges, Gavin boasted to Mark about his own convictions for offences in 2006 and 2008. The first offence was in 2006 and involved a note, a gun, and Gavin's threats that they get off at the next stop. However, these attempts at abduction failed miserably. Gavin pled guilty and got 2 years suspended with 12 months supervision, a sentence he himself called a joke. In December 2008, when Gavin was 21, he worked at Woolworths in Harlow. He approached two 16-year-old girls who were also working there, his colleagues, in his own workplace, with a box cutter, a Stanley knife type instrument, and threatened them, telling them to get to the back of the stockroom. After failing to untangle a piece of rope he had intended to use, he took out some tape and began to bind the hands of one girl behind her back. The other girl escaped and the alarm was raised. Gavin did this in his own workplace, to his own colleagues. He's an idiot. For these offences, he served 32 months. Gavin exchanged over 900 WhatsApp messages with Mark Mulligan over a 2-year period. The messages included text messages and voice notes. It appeared from the messages that Mark was Irish, lived in Ireland, and had previously been convicted and sentenced for stalking women. During the exchanges, they exchanged numerous images of Ms. Willoughby, mostly genuine, but one deep-faked image, as well as images of other women, including deep-faked women of them being tied up and gagged. Somewhere along the way, Mark was getting cold feet, and then his legal problems in Ireland stopped him from helping Gavin. However, the chat seems to indicate that Mark had real intent to abduct Holly Willoughby, even going so far as to discuss flight plans to the UK.
During the trial, the jury had all of your private kick messages with David Nelson in a document that during the trial was called the sequence of events, setting out the messages chronologically, line by line. It is clear early on during your exchanges with David Nelson that your plan was to kidnap, rape, and otherwise sexually abuse Ms. Willoughby. When David Nelson asked you whether she was, quote, going to be returned, close quote, you said no. Later in the exchange, when David Nelson asked what would happen when you were, quote, done, close quote, you said, quote, slit her throat, clean her out, and dispose of her, close quote. Later still in the exchange, you made it clear that when you were finished, the plan was to slit her throat, wash her in bleach, and dump her body in a lake. You introduced the idea of murdering Ms. Willoughby into your exchanges with David Nelson, and you clearly sought to persuade him to participate in this part of the plan, whether it was to be David Nelson who actually slit her throat, or you doing so with his participation, assistance, or encouragement. That is the basis of your conviction for soliciting murder. Another deeply unpleasant aspect of your exchanges with David Nelson was your saying that you had another potential victim to, quote, practice, close quote, on, namely a neighbor of yours. Over a number of years, you pursued an unhealthy sexual obsession with Holly Willoughby that led you ultimately to plan over that period to kidnap, to rape, and to murder her. You researched her home address, her security arrangements, her daily routine, her route to work, her family. You assembled a restraint kit. You bought what you believed to be chloroform to incapacitate her and her husband. You intended to harm her husband and her children as part of your plan. You attempted to recruit several people to help you. You discussed with Mark and with David Nelson, and no doubt others, in hideous and revolting detail, the prolonged sexual violence that you intended to inflict on Ms. Willoughby once you abducted her and had her under your control. You had previously been convicted of terrifying offences involving the threat of sexual violence against 4 different young women. I found you to be dangerous. You solicited David Nelson to murder Ms. Willoughby or to assist you in murdering her. You encouraged Mark and David Nelson to participate in your plan to kidnap and rape Ms. Willoughby. The jury saw through the various lies that you told at the trial and convicted you of these offences, for which I now sentence you as follows. For the offence of soliciting murder, I sentence you to life imprisonment with a minimum term of 15 years and 85 days. For the offence of encouraging or assisting the commission of the offence of kidnapping, I sentence you to life imprisonment with a minimum term to serve of 15 years and 85 days. And for the offence of encouraging or assisting the commission of the offence of rape, I sentence you to life imprisonment with a minimum term to serve of 15 years and 85 days.